Listen, the homey sounds of a town waking up. There's Tommy Cassidy, Jr., delivering the same paper his dad used to. Yes, this is my town. It could be the place where you live, too. We have a pretty good cross-section of America. At first, only families like the Hunters and the Witherspoons. Then came the Checkerinis and the Schmidts, the Feldbergs and the O'Grady's, and many more. Together, we've built a town to be proud of. This monument is to one of the founders of our town. He was also a signer of the Declaration of Independence. I knew him quite well. I come here often. Permit me to introduce myself. My name is John Hendricks. Oh, I've had other names, too, throughout history. Don't let my magical appearance bother you. I can disappear just as easily. It's all in the signet ring, which is going to help me tell you a remarkable story. 300 years ago, all this was a plain stretch of beach. From this barren shore, who then could have looked ahead and visualized our world today? Movies, radio and TV dinners, the miracles of modern surgery, even to the repairing of a human heart to prolong life. Automobiles, jet planes, space flight, yet it took more than just work and imagination to create all the things we now take for granted. One of the factors that have made our way of life possible is still a mystery to a good many people. I call it the invisible force. It's all around us, right now, but we can't see it. It's like electricity. We can't see that either. But we can see what it does. Let's visit the harbor, shall we? Ships always draw me, like a magnet. Our story is closely associated with shipping. That's why I see a connection between this modern harbor and a certain ancient Phoenician port. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. According to the proposition you presented to me yesterday...
The cargo bond?
Yes, the bond. You will advance me the money for a cargo. If the ship I send reaches Sardinia with my goods safe, I repay you. But if the cargo is lost, the loan is canceled.
Correct.
In return for which, I must share my profits with you.
As I also share your losses, if any.
Yes, but I must also...
Between here and Sardinia, pirates lie in wait.
Yes.
This is the season of storms.
Yes.
And navigators, sometimes they follow their noses instead of the stars.
Well, I know it.
With this bond, I am assuming your financial risk with you.
Yes, but I must add your fee to the price of my goods.
Or which is better, to have goods at higher prices or to have nothing.
I accept. To bear alone the total loss would ruin me.
A wise decision.
Yours is an interesting signet.
The helmet. It symbolizes protection.
A good omen.
There's your bond. Regardless of what the fates may decree, you can be assured that on this voyage, someone else is sharing your risks with you.
And a good feeling it is. It also means that now I can afford to undertake it. My thanks to you.
Go with honor.
May all the gods grant us a fair voyage.
Well, by this time, you probably realize you've seen the beginning of the insurance business. And that insurance is the invisible force. As early as 1000 BC, it was helping extend commerce and with it civilization throughout the known world. The invisible force continued to grow and expand for the next 2,000 years to meet the needs of shipping. Welcome to London town and the 11th century. You see me as a transplanted banker from Lombardy. Over in Westminster, King Edward the Confessor is building a church, an abbey, that he hopes will stand as a monument to his reign for 1,000 years to come. And you know something? It will. But to explain my presence, a few of us Lombards came from the northern Italian coast to England to expand our business of insuring maritime traders. And we are doing very well. Tonight, a group of us are considering the application of a Swedish sea captain. Pray continue, sir.
From Marseille, I sail to Genoa, where I exchange my silk for oil. Thence to Alexandria, where I take on spices brought in by caravan. From there, I return to London.
Thank you, Captain Nortonshield. In general, we approve your plans. However, our examination of your ship shows a need for some new timbers and caulking for it. You take care of that, and we'll guarantee your voyage against loss.
Agreed.
You're the first Svenska captain to come to us. We'd like you to tell the others that we Lombards stand ready to help you in two ways. Because we have an interest in the vessels we insure, we make certain they're safe. And by using the law of large numbers.
Excuse me, what law is that?
Well, I should say the principle of large numbers. For instance, suppose we insure only 2 ships, and one of them foundered. Then the loss would be high. On the other hand, if we have insured 100 ships and one of them sinks, then the loss is relatively small compared to the large number of safe voyages completed. By spreading the risk in this way, we can provide insurance protection for each ship, including yours, at a lower cost. Will you please carry our cordial greetings to your countrymen?
That I will. Good night, gentlemen. Good night, your worthiness.
You see how we are constantly extending the invisible force? It is now helping take ships to the far corners of the earth and back. And in one of the corners, men are going to discover the new world. Meanwhile, close to home, the need for another kind of insurance will grow, born out of one of the most terrible disasters. The Great Fire of London in 1666. 13,000 homes and buildings are lost, and many lives. The city burns for 4 days and nights. I observed the tragic suffering and the financial despair of the small homeowners. After this crushing loss, will London ever be rebuilt? As Dr. Nicholas Barbon I do something very simple to extend the invisible force and make it possible for London to rise again. As a result, I will become known as the father of fire insurance.
Fire insurance on buildings and homes? I never heard of it before.
Well, the idea is new. Insurance on land. Of course, we've insured shipping in the high seas for many years.
Yes, I've heard of that.
Well, if it works so well on water, why should it not be equally valuable against hazards on land?
And fire's one of the worst.
Exactly. And because we're insuring so many of your neighbors against that kind of loss again, we can provide protection at a rate low enough for you to afford. This is the period when thousands of hardy Englishmen become colonists, setting forth with their wives and their children to build new homes and new lives in America. Those who have turned their backs on the old world are determined to create a new one, where their ideals can flourish in freedom. One of the concepts they carry with them is insurance protection. In 1752, the people of Philadelphia, remembering London's Great Fire, organized companies of volunteer firemen. Among their membership are many famous names.
Ben Franklin.
Yes, Charles?
Before we disband the meeting, gentlemen, now that we have a board of directors and are going to get a charter, I feel we need to change our name.
Well, I've always rather liked Hand in Hand.
Oh, for a bucket brigade, yes. But for a fire insurance company, it's not, well, it's not impressive enough.
Have you a suggestion?
Well, no. Maybe John has.
John?
Well, what about the Philadelphia contribution ship for the insurance of houses from loss by fire?
What John suggests has a nice sound to it. As poor Richard would say, names should be like mirrors, reflecting the true picture. Come along, John. We'll go over to the Gazette office and reflect on this one. Good day, gentlemen.
Good day, Ben. You know, my friends, I think John Hendricks has given us a very good, sound idea. After all, that's exactly what we're trying to do. If each of us...
And the company is so chartered, others soon follow. The idea of insurance spreads. The young nation is reaching out beyond the mountains, into the valleys of the Ohio, the Mississippi. Ribbons of steel follow in the trail of the Conestoga wagons, helping to create cities and industries. Agents for the young insurance companies travel across America by any means they can, operating farther and farther from their home offices, and carrying the invisible force westward and deeper into the lives of the people. In the late 1800s, by the time this traveling salesman makes a call at a customer's plant, the workers are protected by what is called employer's liability insurance. The next step, workman's compensation, with medical benefits for injured employees and financial help during recovery. But even that isn't enough. For instance, this man is not an employee here. Fortunately for everyone concerned, there is a new form of insurance, public liability, to protect you against accidents to other people on your property. Teams of horses cause accidents too. For them, we devise teams liability. Yet we have no idea how difficult insurance problems can become until the automobile arrives on the scene. We thought we had problems in the good old days, but they were nothing to what they would be in the future. Today, we watch skyscrapers tower higher than the world has ever known, bridges reaching farther than the world has ever seen. Industry and commerce are expanding beyond belief. In the climate of freedom that fostered America's industrial expansion, the privately owned insurance companies have been growing along with the country, and at the same time helping the country to grow. New forms of coverage and services are developed by the competing companies to meet new needs and to provide low-cost protection for our way of life. My town, USA, has its full share of these things. So does yours. In this day and age, the protection of insurance is all around us in more ways than anyone can number. Listen, I love the Sunday morning concert at the Bells, don't you? No doubt where you live, you've learned to tell the bells apart, too. Now, that one is the new St. Stephen's Church. Do you know how the invisible force helped to make a building like this possible? From the first day of construction, the unseen force was at work. That's Cary Donald. I remember his great-great-grandfather, a canny Scotsman. Cary's the general contractor. First of all, to guarantee that the building would be finished in accordance with the contract, Cary put up a performance bond and required similar bonds from his subcontractors, like Jeb Harris, the plumber. If Jeb doesn't finish his job properly, Cary's protected against financial loss. Cary also has workman's compensation on all his employees. If any one of them is hurt, he'll be taken care of. In addition, he took out policies for public liability. Just as it removes the uncertainties from the building of this one church, the invisible force safeguards America's total construction program. In so doing, it contributes to our economy in other ways we may not always see. Consider for a moment the money being paid to the many construction workers. The cost of all the different materials used, and the salaries being paid to all the thousands of people in all the plants that produce these materials. Multiply this by the millions of buildings, large and small, across the face of our continent, and you begin to feel the power of the invisible force. Power for our nation. This giant hydroelectric dam also required insurance, including a huge surety bond to guarantee its completion. Here, another kind of unseen force is being born: atomic energy. New forms of insurance are meeting the needs of the atomic age. Our mass production and distribution system embraces the entire spectrum of risks, and many forms of insurance are required to cover them all. Without such protection, our complex business organizations would not function so smoothly, and as individuals, we could not have our high standard of living. This is Eric Anderson and family, on the way home from church. One of their greatest possessions is their home. They could buy it on credit because of insurance. Without this protection, they either could not have borrowed the money, or the interest rates would have been more than they could afford. The Andersons know that if anything should ever happen to their home, windstorm, fire, burglary, or even if someone should be injured on their property, they will be protected against financial loss. The man who helped them buy this low-cost, carefree assurance, whose business it is to help select the type of protection to fit any given need, is Tom Cameron. Tom is an insurance agent, but right now, as a member of the local Board of Education, he is concentrating on other things.
By adding a wing to the east end, we can take care of the increased enrollment we know is coming. Now, I've summarized the idea in these brochures you have in front of you. Shall we read and discuss them now?
There are about 200,000 independent agents and brokers in this country. Like Tom Cameron, they contribute something more than just insurance advice to their communities. They look for ways to serve as citizens. It's a natural outgrowth of their business. Therefore, service is the very heart of the invisible force. Watchful eyes in research and testing laboratories supported by insurance companies are constantly observing tests of all kinds of materials. The more safety that can be built into things, the less insurance protection will cost. Few are aware of the contribution our industry is making every year to fire and accident prevention. In the continuing campaign against fire, our inspectors work with the town and city fire departments to study the adequacy of the water supply for firefighting, the location of hydrants, the efficiency of alarm systems and other fire defense measures. In the field of accident prevention, trained men, called safety engineers, go everywhere, looking for ways to stop accidents before they happen. Millions of dollars every year are spent on safety education. One of the biggest efforts of all deals with safety on the highways. Thousands of accidents are prevented, but more must be done. The growth of America's huge auto industry has been aided by the invisible force because the majority of car owners could not have obtained the credit to buy their cars without insurance, and few would dare to drive without it. What can we do about auto wrecks? This car was skidded into a ditch by a drunken driver. We can impose heavy penalties for drunken driving. And this one was run through a red light by a woman who had 10 traffic tickets. We can take driving privileges away from people with bad records. A teenager was speeding. Studies show that more accidents are caused by male drivers under 25 than by any other group. So insurance costs them more. On the other hand, it is also a fact that teenagers who take driver education in school have fewer accidents. So most companies give them a discount. The average car owner is more conscious of the cost of his automobile insurance than he is of most other forms. He sometimes wonders by what mysterious process the rates or premiums are set. Auto rates in any given area reflect the number of accidents and their cost. The process is not mysterious, really. It's all quite scientific. Most rates are computed by rating bureaus. These experts are called actuaries. They work in all fields: automobile, fire, liability, theft, and so forth. They are specialists in the assembling and analyzing of facts and losses, which are then run through computers. In this way, rates are established which will be sufficient to pay for losses, but will not be excessive. Here again, the principle of large numbers applies. On the basis of experience, insurance men know that about 1 out of 4 automobiles on the road today will meet with an accident in a given year. And we have drivers by the millions. There are hundreds of competing companies selling all types of insurance. These companies are owned by millions of people, stockholders and policyholders. This makes it a typically American business, of the people, for the people. The big winds leave as suddenly as they come. Born in the storms of the seas 3,000 years ago, insurance protects us today from the storms of the land. And as quickly as the tempest dies, insurance adjusters are there to pay claims fairly and promptly. In addition to homeowners, insurance may also reimburse store owners for the business they have lost because of fire or other catastrophes. Yes, the invisible force enables victims of disasters like this to build again, to pick up the pieces, and to go on with their lives. Well, we've come to the end of our day, and the end of a 3,000-year journey through time. I've shown you the invisible force, how it began, how it grew, and how it works today. You'll recognize it all around you. A penetrating and far-reaching force that means better living for us all.